Guys, after subscribing to this channel, please make sure that you also press the bell icon so that no notification, no new video of mine, any educational video, is missed by anybody.
This is the station. I give you 4 minutes from now. I was giving you guys time, and now since the time is up, let's discuss this. All right. So let me see how many of you have given the answer. All right. Good. Swaroop, very good. Dipali, Pratibha, Akansha, excellent. Very good, guys. So I have some. Lavanya, I'm waiting for you. Please answer, and we'll discuss regarding this. So there's a 29-year-old primary, and she's been admitted with excessive vaginal discharge. And there was a prolonged, difficult delivery of a fresh stillborn and a month back, and she's now having some vaginal fistula, which is 3 centimeters from the introitus. Okay. So the question is, what would be the relationship of the fistula to the bladder? And list 2 important pre-op investigations. This is a very, high-level question, I'll say. Vaginal fistula, we do not expect the PGs to understand very well. But since they've asked very general questions, not very specific. Enumerate 3 examination findings which predict a poor outcome of the fistula repair. Again, not a very straightforward PG-level question. And then enumerate 3 surgical principles for the successful outcome of the repair. So here are the answers. This is a vesicovaginal fistula, which is 3 centimeters of introitus, probably situated near the trigon of the bladder. And why we are so scared about the trigon of the bladder is because you can stitch the ureteric orifices when you are, taking the stitches. So it's not a very, very safe place to be. So if the fistula is close to the trigon, you can stitch the ureteric orifice, and as a result of which, you can cause urinary reflux, hydronephrosis, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, trigonal involvement might necessitate prior ureteric stenting or reimplantation during the surgical repair. It all depends upon the exact anatomy. So the next question. So how will you do the pre-op investigations? The most important in vesicovaginal fistula is cystoscopy. Once you know it is vesicovaginal, you will do cystoscopy. But at the same time, you also want to know whether the ureters are also somewhere involved or not. So you also do IVU, which is intravenous urogram, because that will tell you the position of the ureters and the opening where the ureters are opening, whether that's also close to the orifice or not. I mean the vaginal or the vesicovaginal fistulous orifice or not. Then you have enumerate 3 examination findings which predict poor outcome of the fistula repair. So you have large fistula size, which is not good, not very amenable. It does not have a very good outcome of fistulous repair. Extensive fibrosis and scarring, okay, and the proximity to the trigon and the urethra. So if this fistula is very close to the trigonal area or the urethral area where you have both the ureters opening or very close, so it's going to have a bad, risk of surgical failure is going to be there. All right. And then 3 surgical principles. Always remember the principles of vesicovaginal fistula repair or any fistula repair will be asked to you. So first of all, you need to have a tension-free closure. Remember the sentence, just ratify it. Tension-free closure. Every time you are, closing a fistulous tract, if that is under tension, it will form another fistula. It will not heal properly. So first of all, freshening the margins. And most important is multi-layer closure. And more important than that, MR fistulogram, okay, that's a good question. MR fistulogram has a role. It's not like that it doesn't have, but it's only when to understand the site, the size, and what do I say? Mostly, yes, the site and the size you can use, but more than that, we use the CT urogram. MR, this thing is very, very expensive. So usually you start with IVU. That does not give you a very good visualization. Then CTU, and CTU is the gold standard, not MRU. Remember that, number 1. Number 2 is what I was trying to tell you is that whenever you're talking about the principles of any fistulous repair, always say tension-free closure. You have to make the flaps. You have to, there is, adequate tissue mobilization has to be there. First of all, you have to create flaps. You have to mobilize the tissue so that it's easy. The approximation becomes easy. It's not rigid, and you don't have to. The sutures are bringing together. It will not hold. It will not hold. So you have to mobilize the tissue. Once the tissues have been mobilized, the flaps have been created, then tension-free closure should be there. That's number 1. Number 2. there should be a multi-layer closure. So you should have a bladder closure separate, the muscle, if it's there, separate, a Mauritius flap in between, which is nothing but a vascularized pad of fat in between, and then the vaginal closure. Plus, of course, you have to, give a continuous catheterization for at least 14 to 21 days to allow healing without tension. Otherwise, it's going to be like this. The urinary bladder is going to expand. Correct.